Go to tapgiles.com to learn dreams, engage my services, and support the channel. So I thought I'd show how to turn a full track into something that reacts to the player in some way. In this case, to keep it simple, I'll just have like an input. I'll have a chip with the music and an input saying how intense the music should be. So like how loud and rhythmic and stuff like that it should be. And then if you turn down the intensity by turning down the value going into it, because you're in a sneaky area in the game, then it will kind of transition to a lower intensity music. And I'm going to do it with my track Hunker Down. So have a microchip, we'll put our music in there, and we'll have a node coming in. So for testing, that'll normally kind of sit outside the chip, and then we can plug a value into it like that, and like send it these different intensities we want. So we'll just kind of put the value slider in here so we can test it easier. So we're not actually going to use the original timeline, so we'll turn that off, and we'll make a new timeline, and make sure it has the same speed, which is 74%. So I'll just use L1 and square to type in directly, and I'll put 74%, and that should run at the same speed now. And we can put that onto beats mode, and we'll just kind of cherry pick parts of the music from here and put it into here, so it's easier to work with. I think working with 4 bars is a good way of doing this, because then you can have some variation even if it loops. You effectively want to make a really tall thing with everything in, like all of these different parts. So I'll actually just do that for now. There's a tip for moving a load of stuff from one timeline to the other. So there's a problem where if you put it too far to the left, sort of thing, then the ones to the right, the sounds to the right you can see start overlapping and going behind the one that you're holding. So if you just drop it anywhere and then move it, it's like easier to control. So I'll just kind of get one vertical column and start with that. That's probably easiest. So that normally starts beforehand. So I've got this part of the music which actually starts, this note is meant to start before the bar. So I'm actually going to make this go a bit further back. I'll just give it a bar on each side. And then go up to here and drag the trim start and trim end. So we can still see stuff that's hanging off the ends, but it won't actually play. So now we can have that. So that part will be before the bar starts, and then it'll go around to there. Make sure it's looping. Like that. So now I want to find which parts I want to play for the low key version. So I'm going to tweak the timeline itself, go into the second tab and turn on show sidebar. So if I click on S for solo, now it will only play that instrument or on that instrument. So for that. And if I want to turn off the drums, I can just turn off those rows and things like that. So yeah, the idea is this will just keep playing, and we'll turn different rows on and off, basically with using keyframes and stuff. So that's kind of cool. I think I like that. So we actually want all of these to be off, and then we'll use keyframes to turn the sets on that we want. If I double tap X, I select everything in this timeline, and then I can tweak one of them and turn it off, and all of them turn off at the same time because they're all selected. And then I'll use a keyframe to turn on the Cajun, and this kind of fill. There you go. So now if we power that on, we get this kind of sneaky low key thing. which is cool. I'll just leave that one on. I think I like that as the next level actually. And then I'll like bring this one in and some extra drums. The cool thing about this is you can have kind of infinite numbers of these different stages. So I'll just have these 3 stages so that we can more quickly show the next part. So we're going to use this input of the percentage of intensity to control the timeline. So give it different percentage and it will go to different places on the timeline. So now we can say during this part, I'm just using up on the D-pad to scale it up. On this range, then we're going to play the low key stuff, so we can actually put that across the whole thing. And from this point, we're going to play this range of stuff. And then when we get to high intensity, we're going to play this range of stuff, just for example. So now if we stay on 0, we only get the ticking and the little bit of drums. But then if we have this amount of intensity, this other stuff starts playing. And if we go to full intensity, all those layers are playing. And just to intensify the difference. And then we go back to low key and we're back to the kind of low key stuff. But right now we can change this at any point. So we can just go full blast like in the middle of a bar like that, which doesn't necessarily sound so good. So we're going to say only on the bars we can actually change to the new setting that this has. So I'm using a signal manipulator and it's going to just put the value straight through. But if I turn on freeze, then the output will stay locked until it's unfrozen and then you can freeze it again. So we can kind of freeze what the intensity is until we're allowed to change, and then that'll go through as normal. So if we put that through to here, and I'll leave freeze on, so that stays on the low intensity one, and then if we put this to high intensity, nothing changes until we like turn that off on, we turn that off and then on, and then it changes. So we want to do that based on where it is in the timeline, on these like bar points probably. So if we go and make a new timeline inside the timeline, then we can make it use bar mode with pressing X on the clock time to change it to bars. So we can put that to 1 bar along. And then if we tweak the timeline, we can set it to loop. So now whatever's happening inside the timeline will happen every bar. And we can put a keyframe in here which turns freeze off, but it'll only turn freeze off for a really short amount of time. And then if we just drag this out a little bit more and then put that at the end and then drag it closed again, then this will be right at the tippy top end of the timeline, and it will happen at the end of each of these bars. So because we have this playback speed, it isn't at 100%, it kind of messes with the timing of how these keyframes and logic and stuff works. So I'm going to turn off onto the clock time over here by pressing X, and then I'll use L1 and right to kind of expand out. So this is 1 second, or this is 1.5 seconds. So if I use L1 and right, that just takes more of the space horizontally. So at a certain point you start seeing these columns. These columns are actually logic frames of how it's processing the logic and the keyframes and stuff. So now if I drag this here, that makes sure it's happening on that full frame, and hopefully it won't get missed so much. So now I can make that smaller again, and now if I play, so now on the frame, on the bar, it tries to change. So that. So now the changes of intensity happen on the bar, which is kind of cool. So now we have these different intensities. So we can request the intensity of full intensity, and it will change when appropriate in the music. You can have this change with where the character is in the level, or if the character is like, now he's crouching, so let's go into low intensity mode so it builds some tension, things like that.
Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something interesting. Go to patreon.com/tapgiles to learn something new every day.